Aloha everybody, good evening on this Friday night here in Pu'u, Puna. We are here with Mileka Lincoln.
Happy Aloha Friday!
And myself. Aloha
Marzo,
everybody,
and
good evening
Mr.
on this
John
Friday night here in
Stallman.
Pu'u. We call him Ranger John.
Ranger John. We'll be getting to Ranger John in just a minute.
Yes, so what's the development today?
We had a lot of developments today. I would say that most people are interested in knowing what the progress of the lava flow from the fountaining of Fissure 8 is as it approaches Four Corners. Based on the last update that we got from Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency and USGS HVO geologists who are out in the field, it has not crossed at the Highway 132, Highway 137 intersection of Four Corners.
Kula.
Kula, that's right. We found out what the name of that area is. However, it did cut across Highway 132 about half a mile north of Four Corners, and that was just before 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Right.
And it had been moving as fast as 100 yards an hour at one point in the really early morning hours of today, and then it had slowed down significantly. And so it's not moving as quickly right now, but however, despite that fact, they still think it's quite possible that it will make its way all the way down to Kapoho or Vacation Land.
Beach lots. So it comes down, the steepest line of descent comes down between the Cinder Cone and Green Mountain, where Green Lake is. Comes right between there.
Yep.
As of this afternoon, we had a video. I don't know if you guys seen it on earlier that I posted. There was a video that we've seen a huge flow right on Highway 132 going east, just before Sanford's pit driveway, and it's continuing on to Four Corners. We'll hang a right and go down into Kapoho Beach Lots.
That's again based on like the topography of the
steepest
path
line of descent.
Steepest descent. Right.
So
obviously, for those of you who live in this community, we don't need to explain to you how critical it would be if it passes right through the intersection of 132 and 137. Right now, if it's north of the area and it cuts off Highway 132 only, then that maintains the access that is currently in place along Government Beach Road, Highway 137, in that area known as Red Road.
Red Roads.
And that means that people could still possibly be able to get into Kapoho, into Vacation Land, into the Poho'iki side of what is already the closure of Highway 137 a little further down between Poho'iki and Kama'ili because of the water ocean entry that is still happening.
So it's going to be a triangle area where Kialaka Poho'iki Road, Kialaka farm lots, Kapoho Vacation Land, Kapoho Beach Lots, all, if that flow ever cross over 137, I mean, there are going to be a lot of cutoff areas.
Significant impact. So they estimate that there are 500 residents in the Kapoho area, and that specifically is Kapoho Beach Lots and Vacation Lands. But there aren't 500 households that utilize that road. As we know, there are thousands of people who need that access route to get into coastal Puna.
Right.
On that particular side of coastal Puna, of course, keep in mind Highway 130 is still open for those people who are in the areas outside of the Kama'ili closure, so Kaimu and Kahena and Kalapana and Seaview. They can also access their neighborhoods utilizing Highway 130, but keep in mind Highway 130 does still have the steel plates down. Those cracks are widening every day. More are happening every day, and steam is continuing to rise from them. Although they've not detected sulfur dioxide, that is a legitimate concern. They don't know how long they can maintain the structural integrity of Highway 130, so they've lowered the speed limit even. It's down to 25 miles per hour, right?
But the good thing is, good fellow brothers are starting to create
Chain of Craters
Road. And apparently today they're almost done.
What?
They're almost done.
Is that really possible?
That's really possible with my brother-in-law Terrence Salazar.
We love you,
exceptional bulldozer operator.
D10s, right? They brought in
D10Ts. So they're almost done. They actually almost finished today. So I'm thinking next week we should have an operational road.
And to clarify what they're doing, they're not cutting through the lava.
Right.
There was about 7/10 of a mile that had been covered along Chain of Craters Road as a result of the 61G flow, which Hawaii Volcano's National Park named Kamopuna. That was the ocean entry that you guys were able to do a lot of those beautiful lava tours of. And then what happened when the lava crossed the road there, even though they had already started clearing Chain of Craters during the 2014 Papua lava threat, they had to essentially start their work all over again. But they're not tunneling through, they're not scraping through, they're doing what?
They're just going right over the top and creating a one-lane road. So it's supposed to be just a one-way out evacuation route.
Which is obviously getting a lot of discussion because...
And now they're thinking of changing it to two-lane road in and out. But we're not too sure, we can't confirm that right now.
Right.
But that's what the discussion is all about.
But we super aloha everyone from the National Park Service, from Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, from the county, from our congressional team who helped to make that possible, because it took a lot of government paperwork to get the approval to reopen Chain of Craters Road. But we know how imperative it was that they do that, because it could potentially become the only way out.
Right.
If we lose Beach Road.
Yes, if we
or
lose
130. Right.
130, and if 130 goes, that's the only way out to civilization.
That was a little melodramatic, but also very true.
Right.
So again, for those of you who are wondering what the status of Four Corners is, what we can tell you is that based on the last update we got, and unfortunately we are beholden to confirmation from government officials, they tell us that around 3 o'clock today, Highway 132 was cut across half a mile north of Four Corners, but it has not yet reached the intersection, though it does appear likely that that will happen, and that later tonight Government Beach Road will be lost in the direction of Kapoho and Vacation Land, because that's the path of steepest descent, and that's exactly why they are asking that everyone in that area evacuate. Now, there was some clarity that was provided earlier today. So as you guys know, there is a checkpoint that was set up in Honolulu Landing outside of Hawaiian Beaches, right there at the intersection of Puna and Papio Streets by the Papio Beach Park, by Kahakai Beach Park. If you live between Kuna Street and Four Corners at this time, if you have a government issued placard, you are being allowed in. So Va'ava'a, Wawa subdivision, that area is being allowed in tonight. If you live beyond that point, so in Kapoho Beach lots, in Vacation Land, you are not being allowed in. There's a lot of confusion about that earlier today, so we want to clarify that. We also want to mention that unfortunately the situation on the ground changes really quickly, and you may be told that you've got approval, and then you might show up at the checkpoint and be told otherwise, and that's just the nature of what has been happening.
Right. So if you get caught in there, it won't be really good idea to be caught in that area because of the Highway 137 is so closely breached by lava. Also a new development, 87 home structures or homes. 87 homes was
87 is the official count by Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency.
State Classy Puna.
Oh, official count. Sorry.
Official count.
By the way, that has not caught on. The upward
filled,
air quote.
Filled. Mine is official count 87. But when we had this Pu'u was created 4 weeks ago, we initiated.
What's 4 weeks ago tomorrow?
Yes, 4 weeks ago tomorrow.
We have a birthday coming up. Our 1 month birthday.
Yes. Yeah, tomorrow. So come on down. We have free food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
We have to do that every day for those who are.
We ended up, the Leilani Association ended up doing a Google Maps of everywhere everybody lived, and every address, and how many people and animals, if they had animals on their property. And apparently, on the map where, one of my friends did the mapping of the lava flows coming through Leilani and Puna. And at this time, it is 200 plus homes that was taken. And unfortunately, it has to deal with
permitting. Right? Permitting versus not permitting. And so we're looking into this, certainly. Yes. And a lot of folks will probably ask, why would anyone live in a hale or build a hale that's not permitted? And what we can tell you is that for many of those people, that choice was made specifically because they can't get insurance in Lava Hazard Zone 1. You'll hear the stories of people who had insurance, many of them who were grandfathered in under former policies, or who maybe had like a really fabulous insurance agent who advocated for them, which I think is really wonderful, but not everyone did.
Right.
And so many, if not most, of the people who live in Leilani Estates, Lani Puna Gardens, did not and do not have lava insurance. And so many of them made the choice to not go through the permitting process when they bought land in Leilani Estates because they weren't going to be able to insure it anyway.
Right.
So we, again, are definitely going to take a closer look at that, and we'll get back to you on that. But the official count coming from Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency as of 3 o'clock today is 87 hale.
So what we here at Pu'u want to do is actually document everybody, whoever lost their homes. Please come see us here so we can make a video.
We're gonna come up with a plan, and we're gonna tell you guys exactly what that plan is.
So we can document on how many people lost their homes.
Right.
You know, physically here.
Because we know that the experience does not currently match up with the number. And we're not saying that anyone's doing the number wrong. We're not saying that anyone's experience is not authentic. We're just saying we're trying to sort it out. So once we figure out how to sort it out and map it out and sort of put that down for everyone, we will let you guys know. In the meantime, though, speaking of hale, especially in Leilani Estates, lots of folks have been asking how the mandatory evacuation went. As you guys know, there's a newly established evacuation zone within the subdivision, which is Ikaika Street, and then all streets to the east, which is actually like half of the subdivision.
Maikai, Moku, Kupono, Nohea, Luana, Makamai, Ho'okupu, Mohala.
That was like a good Jeopardy question.
All the way across.
Yeah.
All the way across.
Yeah. And for those individuals who live in that area who perhaps had been staying beyond curfew, which we know is the experience of many, because they either don't have a place to go, or they aren't comfortable in the shelters, or whatever the situation may be. And so now this newly established evacuation zone has gone into effect. It went into effect on noon today, 12:06 p.m. And according to Talmadge Magno, the administrator of Hawaii County Civil Defense Agency, it has been implemented, it has rolled out without any issue. No one has been arrested yet. They maintain that they now, through executive order from Hawaii County Mayor Harry Kim, have the authority to arrest anyone who stays within that evacuation zone, and also to hold them personally financially liable for any rescue that may need to be assisted or offered to them. And they also maintain, of course, that there's no guarantee that you will be getting a first responder showing up if you find yourself in trouble, because you're now in a mandatory evacuation zone.
Right. I know a bunch of people that are still trying to live still in
Inside that area?
Moku Street, especially Moku Street on Kahukai side. People are trying to, they're still living on that area, but they have to mandatory evacuate. So, you know, I feel sad because there's no other place to go right now. I mean, all the shelters are full.
Well, and speaking of that, as you guys have probably heard, the Kea'au Community Shelter and the Sure Foundation Church Shelter shut down today in Kea'au. But that's because they were moved instead to the Kea'au Armory. So that created a little bit of confusion, I hear, for people, especially because there are so many more people now who are being displaced as a result of the coastal communities being included in the...
Kapoho.
Right.
So, in fact, at Pu'u here, Opuna, we've been having a lot more people.
Way more traffic.
Way more traffic,
Yeah.
a lot more traffic. And don't stop, keep on coming.
Yeah.
This place is for you guys.
I love that. I super love that.
So, that's the developments today. Also, Fisher 7, Fisher 8. I was in there this afternoon and it was still pumping hard.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
A lot of starting to make a cinder cone and
at least 110 feet high.
right.
That's like, what is that in stories? A 10-story building? At
11.
least? An 11-story building?
Yeah.
At least an 11-story building?
11-story
Yeah? Okay.
building.
Okay, so I lived in a 2-story walk-up. That was already big. So an 11-story building is pretty legit. Imagine that, and then imagine out of that 11-story building is still a fountain shooting 200 to 250 feet in the air.
Right.
So that's what the situation is in Leilani.
And also Fissure 18 is still active.
Yes, that's what we have heard.
It's actually, lava is actually pooling.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Instead of fissuring, it's actually pooling on where the fissure is actually located. And flows are still advancing down towards Pohoiki and Kuakala area.
Yeah, they've ponded, and so that's a concern too. There are portions of the lava flow that have passed out of Leilani Estates, passed through Puna Geothermal Venture, which will give you a PGV update here in just a minute, and headed toward Highway 132, 137 in the Four Corners area. There are portions of that lava flow we hear that have stretched out acres. As it hit flatlands, it slowed down, and then it really started to spread out. And so the concern with that is it continues to get fuel, really anything can happen. And then as it falls into areas of depression, it will fill up, and then again anything can happen. So that's something that they're watching very closely. Puna Geothermal Venture, we know lots of you guys have questions about that. So I spoke with Mike Kalekini, he's the spokesperson locally here. He confirms for me several things. One is that there is still lava actively passing through the 40 acres of the operational plant. Most of it is following along the path of the very first flow that broke through on early Sunday morning, which cut across their main driveway. He also said that the two areas that seem to be most interest to people, which is the lava that was encroaching upon, touching, or passing over the well fields. So well field, or well pad rather, E, is where they have two wells where the lava actually passed right over the wells. There's well pad A, where lava also encroached, made contact with the well pad, but didn't actually pass over a well. He says that there's been no forward progress at either of those locations of lava movement. He also said that of the, and again, they changed their number, so of the 9 wells that have been quenched and of the 2 wells that have been plugged, he said that they're all holding up, that there has been no issue, no problem. He also said that they've detected no hydrogen sulfide on property. But what was interesting to hear today was that their monitoring station was burned by the lava. So they do not have a monitoring station on site any longer. They have personnel with hand monitors, but they're also not staffing the plant 24/7, given the amount of sulfur dioxide that's being released from these very active lava flows, and given the access issue for evacuation. So they do have one way in and out right now, which is through a back road. But he shared that if Highway 137, Government Beach Road, gets cut off in any way, they will lose that access. And so right now they are depending on the monitoring that is taking place by the Department of Health, which he tells me is still continuous. And again, still has not detected any hydrogen sulfide, but that is the situation at Puna Geothermal.
And so, and there was 4 wells taken by the lava and 2 water wells. So 6 altogether, but 2 water wells was not geothermal frame. No brine.
There was no pentane that had ever been injected.
So with that being said, we're going to turn it over to our mapping agent, Ranger John Stallman. So Ranger John, you're coming.
Here we come.
You're on, bro. You're on. Aloha. How's it going? So, I'll just show you the map. So, today, of course, the flow from Fissure 8 is the main hazard concern because, as I'm sure they were just talking, we know that it's confirmed that this flow has progressed down the direction towards Kapoho and Four Corners. Four Corners is right here. And within a few hours ago, it was less than half a mile from the intersection at Four Corners. And so, once again, there's always a big amount of uncertainty because the flow will actually like stop and just expand and creep. But because it's so tall and holding so much lava inside of it, it can surge forward and make more distance really quickly. And so it's hard to call. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we can expect that this road will be closed very soon, and that changes everything for anybody who's down this way because physically after that we can't escape with our things and our pets on the road. And so that's the main concern. And the other thing that's happening that we've described is because this is a really big flow with those big levees, the dams of like around it, and it's really wide before it got going down this way, kind of channelized more and got narrow again as it got closer to Four Corners here. But it's really wide, and that means all of that area is full of fresh lava because Fissure 8 is pumping and it's been going for days, and all of that lava is stored in here, and when it fills up it can brim over and you get smaller flows like this one can come out. And so all along the edges of this it can break out and affect people that are near it. And at the flow front, this is the side that seems to be moving more, getting more of the lava supply here. That flow front could close the road real soon, and so that's the main concern. So Fissure 8 still very active. 18, there's not much activity there, so the flow that was heading down towards Halanui Beach Park and the warm ponds, that is stalled, and we're all happy about that. And so also 22 is not active on the last report. So it's all about this very gnarly, massive river of lava coming out of Fissure 8 and feeding these big, tall flows. So, what else can I talk about here? We report on the summit at Halima'uma'u is still deflating, and it looked like it had at least one real significant explosion in the next day. So it's doing the same pattern. There will be steam and small amounts of ash, and the earthquakes keep happening until there'll be a larger explosion. So that's probably caused some ash fall today for the people downwind of it, and it's the same as it has been before. We might see larger explosions, so that can affect the surrounding area and people downwind with ash. So that's still a thing, and it's still kind of doing the same process up there. So do you guys have any questions? So, it's really the same hazard of this massive flow, and so we've talked to a lot of people that are in Papaya Farms Road, know people in Papaya Farms Road, and the bottom line is their opportunities to get out on the road are disappearing as this moves forward. So it's the reality of things. It's to prepare for that, try and contact people in that area, help them move whatever can be done, because this could be the last moments of having that road open.
How does it affect Nanavali?
How does it affect Nanavali? Again, we're answering this question a lot lately because you can see, you know, we're just drawing this in. Tomorrow hopefully we'll have better technology and we'll pull them up on a screen. But where it got wide here before the flow split, all of the lava channel is still pumping lava through this somehow this way, and some of it is filling these big areas. So we had some smaller flows spill over in the area in the back of Lava Tree, but on the map you can see that again there's a kind of rise, some high ground there that even after it's spilled out, it couldn't quite get over that. And so if this big flow starts spilling over and creating flows that get it that way, it's slightly uphill towards Nanavali, and it'll be kind of a slow, agonizing process for it to get over that direction. And so what that means is basically we would have time to prepare when we see it happening, and we're definitely going to be talking about that with everybody. If we start to get reports that there's any of these significant breakouts, then we're going to talk more and more about it. But it'll basically be slow, so they'll have some time to prepare and get out. But people in Nanavali should be prepared about that. Stay informed, be organized and ready to go if things develop that way. But for now, Nanavali is okay. So it's really these people that are down in the path where the flow is pushing forward, down towards Four Corners especially. The people affected by that is the real concern for tonight. And if this changes, we'll just keep track of it. So.
Is yours by any chance?
No, those ones aren't mine. I'm not so sure.
Any activity up in Halima'uma'u?
Yeah, that's it's mentioning there's looked like there was at least one pretty significant explosion earlier today, and smaller ones that might have thrown out a little ash, but it's basically still deflating. It might go through quiet periods and then small explosions, and we could always have a larger one at any time, make some ash fall. So still kind of, in a way, business as usual. Hawaii is doing similar things that we've been seeing it doing, and not too many larger explosions so far.
Someone commented that they heard that 22% of the magma stored under Hawaii Volcano is showing up in this area.
Well, 2% of the magma showing up in this area. I think, you know, that's something I would have to see some kind of more information from USGS if they're analyzing in that way. But we don't know exactly how much magma lava we're dealing with at Hawaii or at Pu'u. We can't quite calculate how much total is there, so I'm not sure about that report if they would really know what percentage is getting through. But it might just mean that there might have been a report that they're seeing the chemical signature that links it to Hawaii. I just haven't heard yet. But that kind of percentage thing, I don't know. I'd have to get some more information before I'd be sure that kind of number or what it means. Yeah.
In 1984, Mauna Loa went off. Yeah, at the same time that Kilauea was going off.
That is
correct. Could it happen again?
It could happen again. And that's a lot of people are starting to ask that because, especially realizing how serious it is to react to all of this lava flow and how serious it is and how widespread people it's affecting, it's getting people to start recognizing that Mauna Loa is the bigger volcano, and if it starts to wake up, suddenly the whole island can be involved. And so Mauna Loa is a whole other ball game, but if it starts to get ready to erupt, we're going to see similar process with earthquakes and ground movements and cracking. All of that's going to begin to happen, and so we'll see it starting to happen, and for now it's quiet. But everybody should be praying that that doesn't happen, because Mauna Loa would be a whole other level of risk. Anything could happen. And so hopefully we don't end up having to deal with two volcanoes erupting at once, because that is too much to deal with right now. So, but Mauna Loa is ready to erupt. It's overdue for what we know about its eruption cycles. And so this is actually the longest pause Mauna Loa has ever taken between two eruptions. It's from 1984 to now. It's the longest time it's ever been quiet. So we know Mauna Loa will erupt probably within the next few years, actually. But at this moment today, while we're dealing with the lava flows of Kilauea, Mauna Loa has been quiet. And so it's kind of like we cross that bridge when we come to it. And I try not to worry about it tonight. So that's the best I can say about that one. But Mauna Loa has a chance, depending, that can start affecting an even bigger area, you know, island-wide sort of issues, depending on what happens, and we won't know until it happens. So.
Any idea if the Helena slump would slide away?
Helena slump, yeah, I should almost pull out a different map. Should we do that? Yeah. A lot of people are talking about this, and if I just pull out a different image, it'll help me explain it, because the worry is people hear about this slumping that happens, and so they're imagining that along this cracking that we're seeing, big chunks of the island or this whole side of Puna could slide into the ocean, and that's probably not what's going to happen. But it is something that does happen to the islands, and so this map can help me show that to you guys. So this one is the whole chain, and so the slides, these big giant landslides that they call slumps or slides, are all on this map. And so if you look on this map here, right down here, I don't know if you guys can see it, it says Helena Slump. And so that's where, in the past, parts of the flank of this mountain in Mauna Loa have collapsed and left the debris all along the ocean floor there. And so people ask me, am I worried about the Hailina slump? I'm like, no, it's laying right down there. It already happened. You see what I'm saying? But that was a big landslide at some point in time. It's called the Hailina slump. And that's what the name people are using when they're talking about this whole area falling off. But the Hailina slump is actually just an area where they know there's already been a slide long ago. And so if we move over here in Molokai, is the best example. See, Molokai is like half of an island because basically the whole north side collapsed and fell into the sea. So these are all pieces of Molokai over here, all the way out across the ocean floor. And this is another big one from Oahu. All of this debris collapsed off of Waianae. I mean off of the Ko'olau, and over here is the Waianae slump. So those are all big pieces of the Waianae mountain range, which is its own volcano. It collapsed along here. And so there's these big, giant, catastrophic landslides are on all of the islands at different times. And we know that could happen at places on the Big Island because along Puna here, the ocean drops straight down into the depths. You know, that's almost like more than 3 miles down to the deep water down there, straight down. And over here it's just as steep in South Kona. And so those flanks of the volcano are real steep, and we know that they're prone to collapsing. And you know, those kind of collapses are gigantic, and they would create tsunamis that might affect the entire Pacific Ocean and things like that. But that's probably not happening because of the eruption that we're going through. What's happening now, and all of this lava, all of these cracks and erupting in Puna, is really normal for an eruption in the East Rift. And if this whole mountainside along here was getting ready to collapse and crack off, we think there'd probably be all kinds of warning signs. More cracking, more earthquakes, lots of erupting, all sorts of things might be happening. And so at this time, that's just not the sort of thing we're seeing. I think it's because you know, the lava flows and how giant all of this activity is compared to us. We've never seen anything like it. It gets people extra scared, like, oh, what's next? Is the world ending? But I just want to reassure people, we know that these collapses do happen, that geologically these are the kind of areas where they happen, and it'll probably happen in the future. But that's just probably not what's gonna come out of all of this lava eruption, if you know what I mean. So we can kind of put that to rest. But I'm here all day, so anybody who wants to talk about the slumping, come here and we'll talk about all those theoretical things. There's details all up the chain. So in the afternoons, you can come over here to the hub and we'll discuss all of these things you might have heard. But in terms of the whole island collapsing and falling into the sea here over in Puna, that's we're just not seeing that happening right now. So if that helps.
Is it possible that some of the lava is coming out underneath in the ocean somewhere too?
Well, it does erupt further down along the rift. So this is a nice map because it shows underwater. Our rift zone of Kilauea goes on past Kapoho is right there and all the way down to the ocean floor. And so just like it's erupting in Leilani and this in Lower Puna, it can actually crack open underwater and erupt anywhere along down here, and we know it has in the past. But at this time, we've only seen the earthquakes get as far as Fissure 17, so we'll pull this one off, right? So Fissure 17 is the one that was booming at the end of the whole line of cracks. That's as far as the cracking has gone, and the earthquakes didn't get much further than that either. So if there were lava moving further down the rift, we'd see the earthquakes march on down. And so there's no reason to believe that any of this lava is ending up under the ocean. At the moment, it's all on land up here because we didn't see the lava intrude that far in the first place, yeah? So we could see that change, but for right now, we're pretty sure that it got to a certain point in here and it hasn't kept pushing deep underground, and now it's erupting along the cracks it created, yeah?
Any info on that finger that was moving toward Nana Valley?
The finger moving towards Nana Valley, with some question here, how fast are these moving today? It's still active, you know, and it can still spill over just like the other arm going to Four Corners. But it's all fed by number 8. Comes down one river, and somewhere in here the channel split. So probably that river is going down this way and feeding more lava into this arm. And if it's feeding lava into this arm, that means less lava is getting into this one. So it can't do both very well at the same time. So if this is the one that's been making more progress, this one most likely has been slower. And that's the one that is near Nana Valley, but it's still gonna keep working its way in the direction toward Wawa or Va'a. So it's not going to get from where it's at now straight over into Nana Valley. And it's also probably, from what I've been putting together today on the reports, this is probably the weaker part of the flow. So it's probably getting less lava from the main channel, yeah. They're asking questions online.
Yeah, some questions. They're just thankful for the
We're doing all right over
information.
here. Just relax over there, we're fine. I'm just messing with you.
So people also had questions like, well, the extra amount of lava coming down in the district zone, would that cause the slumping?
Would the extra amount of lava cause the slumping? Well, in a way, that kind of process of the lava coming down into the East Rift could be one thing that causes the mountainside to start moving over, because that's what's already happening in the earthquake. Big pieces of mountain moved during our 6.9 earthquake, and as the lava comes in the rift, it's moving the whole mountain. And so that process could get the slide to begin, but we're just not seeing that level of stuff happening, right? If this little intrusion into the East Rift was going to force the whole mountain to collapse, there's going to be other warning signs, yeah? And right now we're just not at that kind of level. But the same thing that the volcano always does with lava going deep into the East Rift is always pushing out the mountain. And in a worst case scenario, that could lead to a big collapse. But again, that's not the kind of thing we're seeing right now, and we think there'd be a lot of warning signs if something like that was beginning to happen, yeah.
Any word on the flows that we're heading toward Pu'u school, charter school, or Ahalanui?
Yep, this one is stalled still, and so 18 that was feeding the flow is less active, so less lava overall. And at some point it stalled, it kind of hit some low ground and stopped moving, and that probably had to do with this other little arm broke off of it and it was taking lava out of the main channel again, yeah? So those are things that all worked out perfectly and it slowed, so as far as we know at the moment, it's not making progress, so.
Likely this eruption will last about as long as the 1955 and 1960 eruptions.
Yeah.
And will Kilauea go dormant for a while after this all settles?
Yep, I mean that sort of thinking is what I learned from Mike Poland, a USGS geologist, and he was saying, you know, it kind of made me hopeful because as Halima'uma'u is deflating, that's deflating because all of the pressure in the heart of the volcano is driving all the lava out here to the eruption in Lower Puna. And so as the summit keeps deflating, that can actually become kind of the kill switch on the system. Eventually it could deflate to the level where there's just not enough pressure to keep driving all this lava out to the eruption. And so basically what would happen in that, if that's the case, is it would deflate at the summit to a certain level until finally the activity at Halima'uma'u stops, and we'd see the activity in the East Rift fizzle down and stop, and then the volcano would go to sleep for maybe months or years or even longer as lava comes back into the volcano and recharges before it erupts again. and we'd probably see eruptions begin at Halima'u after that first. So in that scenario, if the deflation is going to lead to it stopping, we might be looking at only weeks to months of erupting, similar to 1955 or 1960. But we don't absolutely know those things, but it's a hopeful thing to think about. It might not go on forever because there has to be enough pressure to keep it going. And right now, Halima'u is deflating because we're losing pressure. The pressure is coming out to here. And so that might ultimately cause it to end. So that's cool. So weeks to months if that was the case. And that's shorter than forever, I guess. So.
Well, I guess that's all we got time for tonight.
Okay, cool. Thanks, you guys.
John.
Anything I can do for you, you let me know. Be here all week.
Here we go, gang.
Look alive, look alive.
Okay, we're back. Move the focus to the side.
Alright guys, so you guys got, thank you Tiana for putting your
our
name
light.
in front of the camera. Alright,
Vicky
so
interference.
how's about it? That was an awesome presentation by Brother John.
Ranger John.
Ranger John Stallman. So, thank you everybody. Any questions?
Have we been getting questions? Oh, Andrew's not been paying attention. Our photog.
Okay, what's
How's
the
this
question,
guy?
Andrew?
No questions for you.
No
guys.
questions for
Okay,
us.
no questions for us. That's awesome. So we're gonna end
Aloha nui
this
with a
interview
mele
with a mele
from
for all you guys.
the one and only Ikaika Marzo.
For you folks. Please,
Okay, we're gonna try to sing this one.
We're gonna sing now.
Sorry, wrong key. We're going F.
I give you an A for effort though. Come on, Mom. You're gonna come sing too.
Do that on purpose?
Oh, another thing too, we'll be headed to the concert, benefit concert for all the people that are affected by the lava, and also a benefit concert for Pu'u. It's located at the Pu'u Farmers Market. So,
We're on our way.
tuna.
Aloha.